Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhur Swaha, Tatsavitrvarenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Astoma Satgamya. तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्युर्मा मृतं गम्य ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद. Last week, from these beautiful verses, we learned that our most intense desires will determine our next birth. So that's why if there's no desire, there will be no more births. And if there's no birth, there's no suffering and there's no death. How do we end our desires? In order to end the desires, we must know what really causes desires. Where do the desires come from? We got to think about it. They are in our senses also. They are in our mind also. They are in our intellect also. So we got to learn and adopt a method to escape from these desires. Otherwise, the cycle of birth and death would continue incessantly. Because this cycle takes the G from birth after birth to death after death. Even a single desire left unfulfilled will catch hold of the Jiva. Even a single. And we got to look inside us. How many are there? It may be in the next birth or after millions of births. The fruits of karmas are experienced in the various worlds in which the Jiva takes its birth. So this Rishi is telling us that one who has no desire does not take another birth because the prans don't move. Because the pran, the individual pran, they get dissolved into the cosmic pran. He gave us the analogy of a space in the pot. You break the space, it just merges with the space outside. Or another analogy, these rishis are giving us the waves and the foam in the ocean. They arise, they appear, but they can disappear into the ocean. So that's what we learned last week. Now the new section gives some practical hints about the path of liberation. We'll see the quotations in the form of the verses from other parts of the Vedas, other Upanishads. The spiritual path, we should know that is very difficult for comprehension. The rituals and the dogmas we can understand, but the essence, which is spirituality, very hard to understand. Some people even say it's different from for a different from person to person. These are not contradictory or confusing statements, because path is ultimately the same for everyone. It is non-different from the non-dual supreme. In the earlier stages, it may seem different according to the temperaments of the sadhaks. So, like to start with, the aspirant practice meditation, and the way we meditate could be different. But as a person progresses, we know that our all faculties, they need to be drawn into self. Our whole personality has to be absorbed in the meditation. In the beginning, we can do it, whether it's a sakar or a nirakar, whether it's a light or whether it's the words, whether it's a fragrance, whether we do it sitting down on the floor, in a cave, or in the forest, does not matter. Ultimately, the whole personality needs to be absorbed. So that's where all the differences which seem like in the beginning, they go away. The experiences which the sadhaks meet in different stages may differ according to the gunas of that aspirant too. But they are only the indication of the progress. They should not be mistaken for the goal. That's why uselessly we should not argue about these. Which color we saw, which form we saw, those are definitely indicators of progress, but we should not get lost in them. We'll see that two mantras from Ishavasya Upanishad, he is citing over here. Because it's very necessary on the part of the aspirants to blend together the paths of knowledge and karma. Knowledge of the nature of the truth, which is non-temporal, non-spatial, non-causal, should be the basis for the life in this space-time causation-bound world. It's almost like a map of the countries. If a person has, sure, it can help, but the map itself is not the countries, even though the maps are useful, helpful as an indicator. The same way, the objective knowledge which we get, and the content of that knowledge, if it's only outside, it doesn't take housing inside, we really don't get much benefit. So if the knowledge itself is devoid of content, and the content is bereft of knowledge, that's almost like a walking on a razor's edge. Because ultimately we have to realize this, that I am Brahma. So let's look at the verse where we ended our last week's class. This is a verse number 6 on the page number 360 in our little books. Yadesh shaloko bhavati tadev saktaha sa karman eti lingam mano yatra nishkatasyamasye prapte antam karmanaha tasye yat kinchideh karotayam tasmat lokat punar ete asmehe lokaye karmane itinu kamyamana ath akamyamana Yo akamoho nishkam aptakam atmakamo natasya pranaha utkramanti brahm ev san brahm apyati. Regarding this, there is this mantra verse. See, there are shloks and there are mantras. So this top part is a mantra. So regarding this, there is this mantra. Being attached, the transmigrating self together with work attains that on which its a subtle body or mind is set, experiencing in the other world the end of whatever work it does in this life, it comes from that world again in this world for new work. Thus does the man with craving transmigrate. So this craving is those desires which we were talking about earlier. But of a man who has no craving, who is without desires, whom desires have left, whose objects of desire have been realized, whose only object of desire is the self. So that is the key word over here. Whose only object of desire is the self. The organs do not go out. Ever being Brahm itself, he is merged in Brahm. Beautifully explained. We know that a person who thirsts for objects of desire and constantly thinks on them gets attached to them. It all starts from the thinking of the objects. And the outcome of that is that he is born here and there with such desires. He takes birth for the gratification or the satisfaction of those unfulfilled desires. Because his mind is attached to those desires. Those desires could be about the relationships, about this own body, or the wealth, or the fame. Desires are countless. He who longs after objects of desire, thinking that they are the highest, because we normally think about something which we keep at the highest level. We keep on thinking about it. So he says that he is born with those same desires in those places where those objects of desires can be enjoyed. So we have come here to fulfill the desires. But what happens? Because of those desires, we are born. But when we see this Maya outside, instead of fulfilling those and completing those, we even multiply our desires. Others' desires become our desires too. That's why the original desire, because of which we were born at a certain place, often gets forgotten. So he who wishes to attain final emancipation must renounce all desires. This is the first step in the spiritual path. The desires goad a man to do good and bad deeds. So it's not only good deeds we do because of desires. We end up doing bad deeds also. Papa karam too. And that's how we get caught in the wheel of karma. Or you can say the net of this Maya. This Maya is called Indrajal. And a person has to take births after births to experience the fruits of those actions. And we don't even know when those actions were done because of certain desires. With direct self-realization, this sadhak becomes desirelessness, because Brahm is all full, eternal bliss, everlasting peace, and supreme satisfaction. So how can desire enter the mind of such a person who doesn't have any desires, where only the Brahm is sitting? Because this person is constantly thinking about drinking the nectar of immortality. And this is exactly what we recite every day in one of the beginning mantras. Astoma satgamya, tamsoma jyotirgamya, mrityurma amritam gamya. Amrit, immortality. So if we recite this, chant this with a full feeling, then eventually the worldly desires, they do disappear. At least they become less. All desires that goad an ignorant person to perform good and bad deeds are totally destroyed in his case, even while this body lasts. That's why we do see some people, very few people though, no desires at all. We call them desireless. Sometimes we call them very boring people, but those are the people who are completely satisfied. Puran Kam, that's what it's called. Desires cannot arise in that person, because cause of the rising of the desires, and what is that cause? Ignorance. See, the whole thing starts from ignorance, not knowing ourselves. We just want more and more of outer things. And that is agyanta, that is the ignorance, that is called avidya. So in this kind of a person, that ignorance has been annihilated completely. That person is freed from further birth. His organs do not depart because he is identified with one and all. In that kind of a person, the individual organs merge in their universal counterparts. Because even before realization, he was really Brahm alone. Because self is essentially Brahm. That's what we saw in the last section. Now he realizes that this great truth that everything is that supreme being alone at all times. It was before also, it is now too. And he has not really taken any birth, even now. So he realizes that, because there is nothing else other than that non-dual reality. How can such a person have rebirth? He is not a knower of the absolute, but the absolute itself. This is the meaning of the statement, Brahm ev san Brahm iti, towards the end of this mantra, the last part. Brahm ev san Brahm apyati. Now there's another shlok also in verse number 7. तदैव श्लोको भवति यदा सर्वे परमुच्यन्ते कामा ये अस्य हृदि श्रितः अथ मृत्योः अमृतोः भव यत्र ब्रह्म समुन्नत इति तद अथ हि निर्लवनि वल्मीकेः मृतः Pratyastaha shayit evam ev vedam shriram shete ath ayam shariro amritaha prano brahm ev tej eva so aham bhagavate sahasram dadamihi itihi ha uvach jankoho vedeha. On this theme, there is the following mantra verse. When all the desires that abide in the intellect of a man have totally left, then the mortal man becomes immortal and realizes Brahm in this very body. Just as the lifeless slough of a snake lies cast off in the ant hill, even so lies this body. Then the self becomes disembodied and immortal, the supreme self, Brahm, the light of pure intelligence. Emperor Janak of Videsh said, "For this I give you 1,000 cows, Venerable Sir." So this is verse number 7. Continuation of what we are learning, that the condition for immortality is the renunciation of all desires and attachments. That's what we need to do. That's what the sadhana is all about. The worldly desires can be renounced only when the false knowledge has been removed. And what is the false knowledge? I am this body. I have this name and fame. I have accomplished so much. So many people know me. That is all false knowledge. So intellect is also the seed of desire. We learned that in Bhagavad Gita also. Because when Arjuna asked, where is the desire? And Lord Krishna very clearly explained it to him and to us. Heart, being the seat of the intellect, has been referred to here as the abode of desires. There's no desire in the Atma. Why? Because Atma is pure and taintless. Desires are the taint. There's no desire in the Atma. Desire is the cause for pain and bondage. When all desires are destroyed by the attainment of knowledge of the self, a person who was considering himself as mortal all this time realizes, I am immortal. I am not this body. Then that person does not wait for immortality till the fall of the body, which we normally call death. He becomes Brahm even while living in the body. Those are the people in the other scriptures are called Jivan Mukta, liberated while living. He is freed from the bondage of karma. Liberation does not involve going to another world. Liberation can be right here. There's no movement in space and time. And this is what we learned in the Katha Upanishad also. You can go the second chapter of Katha Upanishad, 14th verse, to check it out. With the cessation of all the desires, the egoism in the form of the individual I ceases to lay its hold upon the body. And that's how a person gets disconnected from the body. Or you can say unconnected. It is compared to the dead skin of a snake. I'm sure you have all heard it or maybe seen the dead skin which snake leaves behind. It looks like a snake because snakes, they leave the whole skin which is over their body leave behind and move to the new place. So that's why he is giving this analogy over here. That self, though living in the body, no longer identifies itself with it, and it is then said to be disembodied. This is what disembodiment is. Other people will see that there's a body, but the person does not identifies with the body. Let's look at next verse also, verse number 8. तात एतेः श्लोका भवन्ति अनुपन्थः विततः पुराणो माम सपृष्टोः अनुवितोः मयि एव तेन धीरः अपीयन्ति ब्रह्मविदः स्वर्गं लोकम् इत उधर्व विमुक्तः. Regarding this, there are these mantra verses. The subtle, outstretched, ancient path is in contact with me. Nay, I have realized it myself. By that way, illumined knowers of Brahma, becoming emancipated in this very life, reach the realm of liberation after release from the body. So on this subject, which he is talking about the liberation, again, this Rishi is quoting another verse from the Upanishad. And this is also from Kath Upanishad. The liberation is attained only by those who are desirous of the self alone and who have the knowledge of Brahma. The path of knowledge leading to liberation is very difficult to cross and hard to tread. Definitely it is hard because these clutches of Maya are very strong. It is far-reaching, extensive. It is related to the infinite Brahman. That's why he says it's ancient, because it is revealed by the ancient and the eternal Vedas. Over here, ancient means those rishis, those kavis, those yogis, those are the ancient. But the knowledge is eternal. It's a Sanatan. The path to attain this infinite reality has been known by me. That's what this seer is saying in this mantra. He says, I know it. And this is the glorification of the knowledge of Brahma, because it really gives a person conviction of complete blessedness. That you don't need any other outside proof. You know it. This is it. And at the same time, others also who are knowers of Brahman go up to the world of heaven after being released from this Maya. And the world of heavens over here really means the Supreme Brahma. Okay, so not in a typical heaven, but Brahma. Ultimate liberation. Verse number 9. Tasmin ahu shuklam ut neelam ahu pinglam haritam lohitam cha esh pantha brahmanaha hanuvitaha ten etihi brahma vitpunyah kritya ejash. Some speak of it as white or blue or gray or green or red. This way is realized by a knower of Brahma. Any other person who has done good deeds has become a knower of Brahma and is one with the supreme light, also travels by this path. So on that path, this Rishi is saying the color is either white or blue or yellow or green or red. These colors really belong to the Sushushmana Nadi, or the other subtle nerves which have been explained earlier. Those who attain gradual liberation experience the colors of the different nerves while passing through the different routes according to their different degrees of evolution. When you do the sadhana, you will see those colors. Those are not just imaginations. Those are the colors of those particular vibrations. But he who has attained liberation, even while in the body, does not go by any route. That's what this mantra is saying. The knower of Brahm, who is purified by good actions, who has relinquished all desires, has identified himself with the supreme light, attains liberation instantly. So otherwise, different colors, different chakras, they signify different parts of our personality. So goal is to get rid of all the desires. The sooner we let go of the desires, the quicker our journey will end. Andham tama pravishanti ye avidyaham upasate tato bhuya evate tabhoja vidyayam rataha. Those who adore ignorance enter blinding darkness. And those that are attached to meditation enter into greater darkness, as it were. What does it mean? The first one he says about rituals, the rites. So avidya, we all know that is ignorance, which is opposite of vidya, knowledge. Worshippers of avidya are those who are engaged in sakam bhakti. Sakam means you are expecting certain fruits from your rituals. And performers of such karmas enter blinding darkness. It could be the abode of the mates. It is called blinding darkness. Because the nature of the self is unknown to them. They are spending time, spending energy, a beautiful human life, and they are just still running after their desires. Because when the fruits of their karmas are exhausted, they are hurled down back again to the world of karmas. Karmayone. Human species is called a karmayone. So vidya means here the knowledge of the deities pertaining to the rituals and meditation on them. So by this kind of a knowledge, the world of the particular deity meditate upon is attained. And when the merits earned are exhausted, they again come back to this place again. And those who have abandoned karmas, who are seeking after the knowledge of deities alone, fall into still greater darkness. This is what meditation over here is referring to. So not a meditation on the Brahma, but meditation on the deities. So whether you are addicted to the rituals or whether you are addicted to what you're going to get from those deities, it's all ignorance he's talking about. So a person falling from a great heights goes into a deeper level than the man who slips down from a small height. So he says that the rituals, that is a smaller height, but if you're meditating, constantly thinking about where you're going to go, it's a higher height. So this is the case of those who take pride in their theoretical knowledge of the scriptures and meditation and give up all karmas. So the intention of the Upanishad here is that we got to know what avidya and vidya is. And there are some mantras in Ishavasya Upanishad also to explain the difference between the vidya and avidya. In the next verse, he talks about Anandaha nam te lokaha andhen tam tamas avritaha tam astehe pretyeh gachat vidvansoho abudho jana. There are those worlds known as cheerless, which are covered with blinding darkness. People who are ignorant and devoid of knowledge go to them after death. So he is talking about other lower worlds also. Worlds of these worlds devoid of happiness, being enveloped by darkness in the form of ignorance of the reality. Only those ignorant and unwise people who long after sense pleasures go to those worlds, which are really the worlds of death. For all worlds except that of the immortal Atma, the mortal. And this is also from a Ishavasya Upanishad. So if you want to further look into these Upanishads, go back to those Upanishads. So that's why I was telling you, he is citing certain Upanishadic mantras from the other Upanishads. Let's do one more. Atmanam Chet Dvijanihi Yadyam Asmitihi Purushaha Kim Ichkasya Kamaye Shariram Anu Samjavaret. If a man knows the self as I am it, then desiring what and for whose sake will he be afflicted in the wake of the body? So that means the knowledge is so clear to this person. So I am this means I am the Atma. Then the desire for what? If you know you are the Atma, you feel fulfilled, complete. Farther we are away from this knowledge, more the desires. As we get closer and closer towards this truth, the desires, they keep on extinguishing. So he who has attained the real state of Atma, being completely dissociated from the individual body, even the body, goes beyond all desires and pains resulting from there. He is the real hero among people who realizes this reality. In this life, it's not that we have to go somewhere else to realize it. In this human form, we are supposed to realize this. We got to have this firm conviction that this is all, nothing is outside me. I am complete. This is called an unshakable conviction, which will free us from all the desires. I am complete. And when the desires are absent, all motivated selfish actions, they just go away. they evaporate. Because it is desires that cause birth of the body, and it is this body that is the source of all pain and suffering. That's what we are learning from here. And the self being non-different from one's own being, which we call Atma, the reality, it is the self of the pain also, which is part of the phenomena. And this is the knowledge we need to have. And a person who attains it becomes free of all actions, all desires, all experiences. So in the scriptures, such a knower is also referred to as Mahakarta, the great doer, Mahabhogta, the great enjoyer, Mahatyagi, the great renouncer. They may appear to be contradicting these terms, but really they are not. For the term Maha, Maha means great. And that really means infinity. It is the inability of human language which really makes us think that there's a conflicting expressions to describe this absolute knower. His thinking, speaking, doing are quite unlike others. And I'm talking about that yogi. To put it in other words, his actions, speech, and thoughts really lose their individual nature. They acquire universality, and that's why this Rishi is calling it Maha. Oneness with all. He thinks and thinks not. He speaks and yet does not speak. He acts and is still actionless. And his body, which others see, is no bondage to him. To give you a very crude example, for example, there's a building. It may be considered as a prison when we put criminals in it. The same building is considered a temple when the idol is consecrated inside. So this is what this person has done now. Established the garden there. So Brahma, which is difficult to understand by an extroverted, uninitiated intellect, is experienced by this kind of a person. So this is what he's talking about. So we'll start with verse number 13 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnam Eva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.